Donald Trump did an interview with Glenn Beck, and it was a strange one. I gotta tell you, a very strange one. We're gonna dive into, and there's actually a lot to watch from this interview that we're going to in this segment, but it's all gonna be pretty much one question because Trump rambles so much, not answering the question at all for a while, and then giving a very inaccurate or pointless answer, I guess you would say. And it's about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That's what he gets asked about, and then just rambles about who knows what. And honestly, the way I would introduce this, or the way I'm going to introduce this, is he had a brain break. Just his brain broke during the interview. And he just was not able to understand what the heck he was talking about, what he was being asked, or any solutions he could talk about. Because his only answer is, I could have made sure the invasion never happened, but he doesn't provide specifics as to how that would have taken place. So here's the first clip, and I'm going to try to figure out how to give you a sense of how rambly he was and how little he answered the question for minutes without actually showing you all of it. So we might skip through different parts, but give you a sense of how bonkers it was.
Very dangerous, very bad.
This is the 1-year anniversary of the invasion into Ukraine. And Mr. President, I can't find a good guy here. I don't trust Putin. I don't think he's a good guy. But I know, because I did a lot of work on your so-called impeachment and what was going on in Ukraine, that's wildly corrupt. And I don't trust our government. And I don't want to get into a war. And we are now...
Any stance you had on Ukraine before they were invaded has nothing to do with Russia being justified. They're not justified because you have particular things you're aware of about Ukraine's government or their history or whatever it might be.
We're close to losing the proxy part of this war, and it looks like we're headed towards something where we are going head to head. What is your take on this, and how do we stop this?
Okay, ready? What is your take on this, and how do we stop this? That's the question being asked. Let's see what he says.
So it's a very interesting question, and I have a little more experience because I dealt with Zelensky. I made one phone call, and then I made a second call. These were two congratulatory calls, once when he won first phase one of the election and one when he won phase two. They were, as I say, perfect.
Okay, so you can see where it's going, but let's actually do this to show you how long he rambles. I'm going to speed it up.
Phone calls. I got unanimous in the House acquittal, unanimous from every single Republican. Now, you haven't seen that too often, but every single Republican voted to acquit or to say innocent, and that was a nice thing to see. The Republicans came together, but I got to know a lot and learn a lot about the country. Now, you know the country is considered extremely corrupt. In fact,
right.
We have a document that says you're supposed to report them, blah, 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 everything,
right.
But it is a very corrupt country. I happen to like Zelensky for one specific reason. When they asked him what I said, was he threatened? He acted as though it was a disgrace that they were doing.
Right. Okay, so you get the point. He just talks a bunch about the impeachment. Of course, everything's about him, and how he kind of likes Zelensky and all those different things. But then he gets to all the way to here, and finally Glenn Beck asks a follow-up question.
Should we be sending more money, more arms? Now they're talking about planes. Should we be doing this?
Okay, now the question is, so he didn't answer the previous question, what's your take on this? It was just a ramble about his impeachment. Then we get to, should we send more money? What does he say?
Well, we're going to end up in World War III. That's one thing that's going to happen, and I've been sort of saying that for a long time now. Are you ready? Just in a very quick nutshell, this is a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were in office. Zero chance of it happening. I used to speak to Putin about it, got along with Putin very well. Don't forget, I was tougher on Russia than anybody else. You're one of the people that face that. I ended their pipeline. I sanctioned them. I did so many, and yet I still got along with Putin. That's sort of a trick. That's a hard trick. It's a talented trick, but I got along with him. But nobody. I was the one that sent in the javelins. I sent in.
So, what? So you got along with Putin, and you were tough on him, and it's true that the Trump administration did some actions that Russia didn't like. It's not like they did everything that Putin would have wanted. The criticism has to do with Trump's interactions and actions with Putin directly and different things like that, and not clearly calling out the interference in the election and then also his stance on Russia's invasion of Ukraine has kind of been strange. But the question was about sending money, and he says he sent javelins. So yes, but he said this is going to get us into World War III. So no. What is your stance on it? I honestly don't think he knows what his stance would be. And then finally, he presents his big solution to the whole ordeal.
This is a war that should have never happened.
Correct.
Okay, so now it happened. Now you have to get people in the room. You have to knock heads, and you have to get it done.
So,
and that would mean saying things to Putin and saying things to Zelensky that they're not going to want to hear, and getting them into a room and getting it done.
Getting people into a room and getting it done, telling them things they don't want to hear, get it done. That's not an actual plan. He has no idea what he would do if he were currently president. Clearly, he goes on a multi-minute ramble about all sorts of things, and finally when he gets to what would be the moment that he addresses it directly, he says, you just get people in a room and you get it done. It's clearly not that simple, because that would have happened if you could just tell Putin something, tell Zelensky something, and boom, it's done. Clearly, Putin is very intent on continuing this invasion, and that's why it's the actions, not just something you could say easily. He keeps saying he's going to in 24 hours. If he were president, he could end the war. Clearly, it's going to take more than that. It's going to take actions from a unified front against Russia, standing behind Ukraine, until Putin is not able to continue his invasion any further. Any other solution is, number one, not practical. It's either not practical, or it would lead to even more of a disastrous situation when people say just stop supporting Ukraine. That's the way we get to peace, or whatever we've heard from many recently on this. And Trump's solution is just, it never would have happened, or I would get them in a room and knock some heads. Very profound stuff there. And again, I'm yet to get a specific example or proof or just an explanation for what details Trump would have done to prevent this from happening in the first place. He keeps saying that, but we haven't got any specifics on it. What would he have done to prevent Putin, who clearly for a very long time eventually wanted to invade Ukraine? Thought of Ukraine as rightfully Russia's, wants to restore Russia to Soviet Union glory, and that's what we're now seeing, just vaguely gesturing towards, you think Trump's stronger and that's why it never would have happened, I think is very incorrect and not exactly helpful to the conversation. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.